got my first job right at 20 for the UN and was making 99,000.
How do you set up a bar to make as much as you possibly can from it?
The first thing is in your staff. Your staff have a higher role to play than your stock. Like, as much as you're the owner up there and making millions every other month and not understanding what goes on half of the time behind the scenes, you need to, from time to time, understand it. Like, it's super crucial. Like, if everyone resigned today, would you still stay behind the counter and actually sell? So I got an accident in 2023. I just relocated to Nanyuki, got a very nice job, a very big company, and literally worked for them for 2 weeks or slightly less and got the accident. The matatu got into an accident near Sagana and it killed 11 people. We only survived 2 of us.
Oh, no.
But it was like life literally stopped on the 25th of April of 2023, like just stopped.
Yeah.
And it was a tragic one. So stopped working for almost a year and a half because I literally couldn't walk. You wake up and not know what will happen the next minute.
Yeah.
And I don't think even the rich people have that many millions just stashed waiting for an accident to happen so that they can pay for hospital bills. Yeah. So that was a major turning point in terms of finances.
Hey guys, welcome back to Financially Incorrect. I am your host, Barrack, and it's Friday, so it's another episode of Financially Incorrect. I have a money story for you guys, of course. But first, before I get there, Financially Incorrect is coming to Uganda. We're going to be there on the 25th of June at Cavendish University. We are hosting a financial literacy event. This event is open to the public, so not just students at the university. So anybody who wants to come meet Financially Incorrect, I'll be there in person. But yeah, so 25th of June, Cavendish University in Kampala. The event is going to be from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. In addition to that, I will be looking to interview 10 possibly more money stories in Uganda. So if you want to get someone onto the Financially Correct podcast, if you want to hear the story, you want to understand how they made their money, please put their names in the description box so that we can reach out to them. Or better yet, they can even reach out to us. If you want to be featured on the podcast, you can reach out to us directly via DM or email. And of course, all of this is proudly sponsored by FX Pesa. If you'd like to learn more about trading and you're in Uganda, please do go to Rumi Building. The offices are there. The FX Pesa offices are there. Of course, you can do all of this learning online as well. Links are always in the description box. If you've been listening to this podcast for the 2 years that we've been doing this, we realized today is sort of the 2-year anniversary for when we started Financially Incorrect. So if you've been listening and you haven't even clicked like the link in the description box to check out what FX Pesa is all about, then you're doing us a great disservice. So please do make sure to check them out. Today, as you can see, we have some beers on the table. Hopefully you can see them. This is the first time that a guest has brought us beers. I don't think any other guest has brought us anything. I don't know. No. We got t-shirts from Regalia. Then we got t-shirts and skincare as well from Baki Beauty. Yeah. Anyway, so today we have beers from 254 Brewing Company. And today I have none other than Nyambura Muriithi, who is here. She told me that she's an overly seasoned in hospitality and marketing, and now she does business development as well. Welcome to Financially Incorrect.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've seen how awkward that intro is, yeah? Yeah, I'm telling you, it takes me like a minute to to get into it. Now maybe you can believe that I don't do this naturally. But yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's the most based on the episodes that you've watched, what's the most intimidating thing about being on that seat? Because you said you're feeling a little intimidated.
So for most of the podcasts, most of the episodes that I've already watched, I feel like people have way higher than I do in terms of experience, much more experience than I do. In terms of money stories, they sound to be a bit bigger than what I have as a money story, in my opinion. So yes.
So you're a little concerned about whether people will like pick anything or like,
and whether they'll relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they will. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot to learn and understand. I don't think there's anybody who sat on that seat and has left and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a complete waste of time. No, it never happens. Because I think everybody's money story is truly different. I mean, I think by the time this episode goes out, the money psychology episode would have gone out. So you begin to understand how people make decisions around money and why they make the decisions they make. So, everyone has a unique selling point.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about these beers first, right?
Okay.
So here I have with me, this is the Golden Ramp session IPA, light hoppy tropical, 4.5 alcohol percentage, I believe. So who's this beer for? Like if you had to describe the persona who would drink this beer.
In terms of age,
Yeah.
I'd say between 30 and 50, even though that's a bit broad. In terms of personality, a well-seasoned traveler, has experience in exploring beautiful things in life, the more expensive, finer things in life. I feel like those are the people who tend to do IPAs more. So IPA is just a style of beer, which is an Indian pale ale. So Golden Ramp is one of our IPAs. We have another one called Suntrap. Suntrap is a bit more bold, so it's for the palate that is already used to drinking IPAs. So they're the ones who go for the Suntrap because it's more hoppy, more fruity, and of course the percentage in ABV is much higher than this is. So Golden Ramp is lighter, more like your lager, just very light, very polite, an easy drink when you're having dinner or something like that. So yes, that's Golden Ramp.
I've realized how out of the game I am because I didn't even know it's IPA. I called it IPA. So I'm like, this is not, not my jam. Not my jam at all. But anyway, so this one is a Muratatu Belgian. I'm even afraid of now pronouncing the rest of the words on this. But I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Muratatu, again, the style, it's a Belgian triple.
Yeah.
It's 10%. It's actually our most popular beer. So what happens is every other week, we usually have seasonal beers. So our brewers have the freedom. The beauty of working for 254 is the director has given our brewers the freedom to experiment, quote unquote, with some beers. So any new style of beer they want to make, any new flavors that are not in the market yet, and we roll them out at our tap rooms where people come and buy, and then we know based on how long it took to sell the beer if it is worth keeping at the flagship level or just seasonal. So we've had over 200 seasonal beers actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Over the 6
and
year
is this
period.
one staying or is this one...
So this one stayed.
This one is
This one
staying
was
now.
meant to be a seasonal.
Yeah.
So Muratatu, the reason why it's called Muratatu is it is coined from Muratina. So it's not Muratina because we've had a lot of people assume that is Muratina. It's not. We don't bottle that. It's only that the inspiration for the beer in terms of the taste, in terms of the smell as well, and a bit of the taste comes from Muratina. So that's why we called it Muratatu. It's the strongest. Does very well in events actually because at an event you don't want to keep drinking a 4% beer. You want something that will kick, but not like a spirit, but kicks without the hangover. So that's what Muratatu is.
So this kicks without the hangover.
Yes.
I know a few people who may recommend maybe. Okay, last one. And these are just the three that we have from the variety that you brought us. This one is the Niaje Kenya Lager, light crisp, fresh. Now this one I can pronounce everything. Yeah, 4.5%. Yeah. What about this one?
So that's the lager. That's our lager. It's again very low in ABV, very crisp. One thing I didn't mention about our beers is our beers are not pasteurized, they're not filtered, so they're very fresh beers. So think of your fresh juice, say from the supermarket or you make it at home. If you don't keep it in your fridge, it goes bad. That's exactly what happens to our beers. So this is the only beer brand in Kenya that you actually have to keep chilled the entire time. And then the lifespan as well for the beer is, the shelf life is pretty short. So there's the 3 months and there's some that go up to 6 months. But again, it's because we haven't added any preservatives into them. So Niaje is very crisp, very, just exactly what they wrote on the label. It's very crisp, very light.
Very cool.
Yeah, very easy to drink on a very hot day, perfect. And you could relate it to people who take white cup or white cup light.
Right.
But this is the better version of it. But yeah.
I've been told by beer drinkers that I don't know whether to say it, but the white cup is the best or one of the best beers in the country.
No, this is the best lager in the country.
This one is
the best.
What makes, okay, I mean, even if we're to compare at the same level, like what makes them so much better than the rest as a non-beer drinker?
The taste. So the fact that they're not filtered or pasteurized means they're very, very fresh. So in terms of if it's the hop, you can actually taste. So if it is crisp, you can feel the crispness. So they're as they should be. Yeah.
Okay. Um, for what you can disclose to us, because I
Yeah.
know, I believe 254 is a private company. What's the beer industry like? What's the business of it like?
So, from the craft beer point of view, it's been an interesting journey. I'm sure my director would say so himself. Kenya has, for the longest time, had a sort of monopoly when it comes to the beer or the alcohol industry. So, the smaller breweries like ours, for example, and I think there are 5 other microbreweries in the country, don't have that much fighting space. So what happens is whenever we get into a bar and we actually literally have to pitch for you to stock our beer. Unlike White Cup, which will automatically, when you open your bar, you're going to have White Cup, Tusker, and whatever. So we have to, again, present to you, explain why our beer is good. Just like wine, have you do the sample tasting with your team and then convince you to agree to list our beer, which we've been doing quite a lot of. But unlike in other countries where you'll find there are 30,000 different breweries, especially in Europe, and the smaller ones actually outdo the big ones, Kenya is the opposite. So there's a lot of work, a lot of groundwork that goes into just finding our beer on your shelf. Yeah.
You talked about, like, I guess Europe comparison, saying smaller ones outdoing the bigger ones. What is it that's happening there that's not happening here that allows smaller ones to outdo bigger ones?
I think fair, level ground in terms of competition. That's
Like
not
competition
here.
laws.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, allow for that. Here we have majority going to certain brands, but we're slowly getting into the market. We're slowly getting accepted. Definitely not where we were 2 years ago. And I believe in another year, you'll probably find us in every other store. So yeah,
Okay.
a lot of work in progress and a lot of groundwork as well.
What's the acceptance of the beer drinkers like? What's been the uptake? Is it that, okay, fine, so once I have this, I'm not, I don't go back? Or is it I have this in certain spaces or certain places? What's it like?
So we normally have to do a lot of tastings, experiences, and activations because, of course, we will not just put up the table talkers on the tables and say we now have a new lager and automatically want to try it. So a lot of engagement and interactions directly with customers to, again, explain more about our beer and why you need to, because this is more premium. So in terms of cost as well, you'll find most of the bars are retailing it at 400 plus, which, again, going for a 330 ml bottle, you really need to be convinced onto why you need to buy this instead of the 500 ml bottle. So it's a lot of customer engagement. Good thing is we've had a lot of conversions, especially with the lager and the moratatu. There's a lot of conversion. I think in the IPA section, we don't have much competition. So Suntrap, Golden Ramp have always been doing well. But for the lager, once someone has it once, twice, finds it in their local bar the next time they go, because that's the other challenge. If I drink it here and I go to the next bar and it's not available, you kind of move back to whatever you were drinking before. Yeah, so again, we're also trying as much as possible to widen our reach so that wherever you go, you'll find our lager as well. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know whether you'd disclose this or whether you have the place to disclose this, but I have to ask, what's the amount of, what's the money like, in terms of from when you started to where you're at now? How much have you had to invest in the process of bringing the factory together, getting the company to where it is even now? And now, are you at a place where you're profitable? Are you close to profit? Or are you still, hoping that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but you're not quite there yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, in terms of figures, I'm not allowed to disclose that. But we were looking at the records the other day of the trajectory the company has had from 5 years ago to where we're at now. We're actually just on the brink of crossing over the line to a profitable company. So I must say Owen is one of the most patient business people I've come across because he's believed in his product from day one, and then it makes it much easier for the rest of us who are also selling his product to believe in it as well.
Yeah.
So in a short while, we will
be coming soon.
Coming soon.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I will. I'll go home and see if I can have 1 or 2 of these and see what it's like and give you all my feedback. Because I don't know that I've had my personality in any of these 3, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
So to your money story now, right? What's money been like for you throughout your life? If you were to summarize your money journey in a sentence or 2, what would you say it's been?
I'd classify money like an actual dating relationship. there's a lot of hate-love episodes that goes on between myself and Mani, but we're trying to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Before we started shooting, you told me about even picking your sort of what you're going to study in university based off of an aunt that you saw who you thought was doing really well.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and what even at the time, how did you perceive she was doing well vis-a-vis what your parents were doing? And you're like, no, I'm not going to do what they're doing. I'm going to do what she's doing because she has X. Yeah.
So, like, I think most millennials, your parents kind of had a lot of say in what you were going to do when you got to university. So when we were applying for university colleges just to see what I was going to study, I wanted to do journalism at the time, like that. I really wanted to be in front of the camera. Now, not so much. But my parents wanted me to be an economist. That was my dad, because he was an accountant for the longest time. He was in finance, and he thought that was the way to go. And because he's able to take care of his family, build, and all that stuff, that's the route to go. And journalism, in his opinion, those days never used to make money, so he didn't see why I wanted to be a journalist. It doesn't matter how passionate you are about it. My mom, on the other hand, has always been very open, and you can be whatever you want to be. If I wake up tomorrow and decide, I once told her I wanted to be a CID because I'd watched it on TV and it looked really cool. She was like, it's okay, we'll find a school. So she was very supportive of whatever it is you want to do. Eventually we got to a middle ground so I have an auntie who relocated to the UK, and she'd done social work. So first of all, relocating to the UK and actually having a job, you're the star in the family. So automatically, in my opinion, she's making a lot of money and she's doing really well. So I decided to study the same thing. So I went to University of Nairobi because to my dad, if you didn't go to UN, you did not go to any university at all. Went to UN, studied social work, got my first job right at 20 for the UN, and was making a lot of money at the time. Yeah.
Can you tell us how much money you were making?
So my first job was earning 99,000. We never used to be taxed, so we were tax exempt. And then because I used to work in Northeastern, being younger, not married, you're often sent to the Northeastern sides of Kenya. So there were allowances as well, and the allowances would come to as much as 35,000 a month. So I remember the first time the salary checked in, I kept putting my ATM card into the machine and checking the balance. I'm like, is it my balance? Like, can I withdraw?
Yeah.
And I did that a couple of times every day before spending the money because I wasn't sure the bank was going to take it back. But yeah, that was my first encounter.
Sidetrack to just what you're saying right now. Isn't it crazy how there are no more ATM machines in Nairobi? I think maybe like this must have been maybe a month or a month and a half ago. I needed to have cash and send the cash via M-Pesa or something, and I went through Kilimani, I think that sort of Yaya sort of area, and I drove around to where I knew ATMs used to be. There's like a total across, I think it's St. George's. It's not there anymore. I went to like 3 or 4 different locations where I was like, oh, there used to be an ATM here. And I'm like, there's nothing. There's like a big sign there like, we're no longer here. And I just found it how quickly we've moved from ATMs or like 10, 12 years ago to now it's a non-starter and everything's
not a thing anymore.
It's crazy. Anyway, okay. What about, I guess you've told us sort of your first job and how you picked your career. What about in your household when you were growing up? And you've told us why you thought your auntie was doing really well. What was your childhood like when it came to money?
So money in our household, now that I think about it, sounded like a taboo topic. You know, those things you actually do not discuss. So whatever your mom earns, what your dad earns, how you spend is not, like we didn't even know how much we used to pay for rent. So we never used to talk about money. Which when I look back, I have to keep unlearning things. Now that I'm married and I have a household, you need to shape that differently, which has been quite a journey as well. And so my parents were very different in terms of, my mom was those save literally everything you can because there will be a rainy day. I don't know which rainy day, but there will always be a rainy day. So she'd probably save 99% of her income if that is even possible. My dad, on the other hand, was spend everything the first 2 weeks, like on experiences. Like, you need to live life. When you die, what will you have you leave the money in the bank. That's
Yeah.
what he always used to say, like literally to his end. It was just experience life, enjoy life, spend the money, it's there to be spent. Because when you leave it, other people are going to spend it for you. So coming from that kind of background led me to literally my first job, which was earning that 99 plus 35. I used to spend everything. Like by the end of the month, and I don't know what I spent it on, but it was just
was all
spend.
gone.
I mean, I'll still get paid next month. Just spend it.
I think that's a really interesting philosophy your dad had, if you'd allow me to say. And he was an accountant, you said.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting for an accountant to have that.
Yeah.
Like within 2 weeks, like we're done.
We're done.
Yeah.
Now we wait for the next one.
Might you? I mean, do you know why that was his philosophy, or how he allowed what I would assume would be his consciousness to override his intellectual thinking on how to spend the money?
So he grew up in a struggling background in terms of your many kids and your parents literally just have enough for your school fees and feeding you and literally keeping you alive. So when he finally got a job, and in his opinion, he was doing really well. He needed to make up for all that struggle he'd gone through. But also he kept saying he wouldn't want his kids to have the kind of upbringing that he had. So whatever it is you want, whatever experience he thinks is the most in at the time, like I remember swimming was a thing. Like every kid was taken for swimming every Sunday. So we literally used to do that every Sunday. We don't know how much it is, but we used to do it every weekend. So he focused more on making sure we didn't live life how he lived it. So when we are adults, we're also not redoing the exact same thing that he did. Yeah. So he focused more on the experience than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about, you say, when I asked you about money in your family, you said you didn't know how much rent was. If you have kids, or if you would have kids, do they know how much you guys pay for rent?
I have a daughter. She's 3. But I think by the time she's old enough to understand,
you would let her know.
I would let her know, just to make her money conscious and responsible, because like I said, I'm also unlearning so many things that I thought I was supposed to do them a certain way. Again, comes with marriage, because you're two very different people with different money ethics, and now suddenly you have to, grow the home together. So there's been a lot of unlearning. So I do not want her to unlearn the way I am doing. I'd want her to be conscious throughout. Yeah. So when she's old enough, just little money lessons.
Okay.
Yeah.
In your own journey, when do you think your folks should have told you about that? I mean, to the point where you as a child don't get worried about rent, but you're aware about financial obligation, so to speak.
I think as young as 6 years old,
Yeah.
because I remember when aunties used to come and visit, and when they're leaving, they were kind of obligated to give you pocket money. I don't know why. So you'd be given like a 200 bob. And that 200 bob, in your opinion, is for spending on every other sweet thing you can come across. But had I been educated on money then, in terms of it, I see kids had Jumbo Junior savings accounts and little things like that. Right now, probably my story would be different in terms of my relationship with money. So yeah. So when she's old enough to know I have 50 bob and this is my 50 bob, she needs to know what you can do with that 50 bob.
Right.
And you keep the change from the 50 bob for next time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go back to the story. So you're earning 99,000 plus 35 on bonuses. When when the bonuses get to that point, you don't know what you're spending your money on, but every month is getting finished and you're getting paid the next month.
Yeah.
How long do you work for the UN?
I worked for 3 years.
Okay.
And then the contract was over. But when it was time to renew the contract, I wasn't feeling my career at the time, because it was I keep telling people I get bored pretty fast. So it was data analysis, data collection, go back to the field, start again, and then drink in the evening. So it was literally routine every other day. Exact same pattern every day with the same people. Because again, security on that side, and if you had to go drink, you'd have to drink in the military camp. So security is that tight. So for me, that meant I'm making a lot of money, but I don't know anything about Nairobi because I grew up in Nyeri, and I need to know what people do in Nairobi. So I needed to shift from that career and come do something different. Now, having been a graduate, I assumed, because I got my first job so quickly, it was going to be as easy to get another job. I applied for jobs for a straight year and got no response. So the next job I got, in my mind, someone had told me that sometimes you just need to do anything. Just be busy, and then you'll start growing your networks. And I think that was the best advice I ever got. Just slowly grow your networks. It doesn't matter in which industry. Eventually, it will be easier for you to get better jobs. So the first job I got was at Petan's driving school, and I was earning 12 Gs. And yeah, so we came from 99 plus 35 to 12,000 bob. And it was kind of paying bills because, of course, my folks were still supporting. But yeah, it was a huge drop. And I wasn't content, of course, because I had to wake up at 6 in the morning, be on the road, get to work. And before that, I was used to, you can wake up at 8 and be at work at 9. So it was very different and shocking as well.
Yeah.
Plus, Nairobi is just literally expensive. You need to hang out with your friends when they're hanging out, but your 12K can't allow that. So I started looking for another job again. Now, through one of my friends, I got to know of someone who was hiring. He'd opened up a bar.
Yeah.
And a bar in a restaurant. And that is how I got into hospitality, because my first encounter with him, he loved my personality and took a bet on me. He literally told me, I'm taking a chance on you. I know you know nothing, but in this industry, from what he's learned and how much people steal as well, a fresh mind is always good. So he can mold you into whatever he wants. And he offered me 100K net. And I was like, finally, we're back to it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before you continue with that story, I wanted to just finish up with like the UN stuff. Do you think you were you weren't old enough or seasoned enough to truly enjoy the benefits of tax-free income and just the benefits that the UN potentially could have given you or were giving you at the time?
I think now that I'm aware and I've been paying taxes for a while now,
yeah,
I wasn't financially educated. So we all go to school, we all go to campus, and I feel like the one thing everybody literally needs to be taught is business. And not just so that you can go and open up your own business, it's so that you learn how to manage your own money. And appreciate certain perks, like the tax-free, or you're buying things duty-free from time to time. So I didn't have that kind of knowledge. So to me, it was just money. Like, you're just getting paid and you'll get paid again and again. So it's not really a thing.
Okay.
And also, why do you save? Why are you saving? You might die tomorrow. So just spend it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So back to this story. And you're being very subtle about this bar or this establishment that you are working at. It was an icon in Nairobi for a long time.
Yeah, it was. I didn't know at the time when I joined that it was a thing. I found out later.
Yeah. We're talking about Jay's Bar, guys. The one, I forgot, I'm really bad. Yes, Muthangari Drive. Jay's Bar. Yeah. That's where she gets this second job from. Okay. Yeah. So you meet the owner, he says, I'm taking a shot on you.
Yeah.
You didn't have to give him your CV, nothing.
No, he didn't read my CV. He only asked, how old are you again? I think at the time I was 24. But you're too young. You're younger than everybody here. So I'm not sure you'd make a very good GM, but let's try. So here's your salary. So you don't get creative. Let's start. Yeah. Okay. And he literally, I am what I am today mostly because of him, because he literally schooled me on everything I needed to know on hospitality. So whether it's your back end, it's your kitchen, it's your stock control, it's your finance as well. He literally schooled me on literally everything so that I'm able to run his establishment. Yeah.
What do you think, looking back now, what do you think he saw in you and what do you think he needed most from you with the job that he had given you as GM of Jay's at the time?
If I'm being honest, I think he saw a lot of naivety in terms of you're still not exposed to Nairobi that way. So you've not learned you could steal from the bar, you could, like so many magical things I see people doing behind the counter. Yeah. So he was sure I haven't. And I didn't know any of that. And I was very green, very honest. So literally my first week into the job, I was able to uncover so many things they'd not been able to uncover before. And it's just because I have nothing to lose. Like I owe him honesty and trust. So if this paper is black and it was meant to be white, I'll bring it up and say, I think there's something wrong here. Yeah.
Was there that much theft going on at the bar?
Yes.
Like what, give us an example. Like what, so how much? Yeah.
Thursday used to be their biggest night. They used to have the live music on Thursdays. And they'd literally lose up to 700K on a Thursday. So, yeah, it was a lot of theft.
Up to... Oh, no. How does that happen? Or how did it happen?
So, weirdly, many years later, I've seen this because I've worked in the industry for a long time. So, I've seen this in so many bars as well. So, once you open a bar, you purchase a lot of stock and you've entrusted your procurement team to actually go through that section of purchasing, stock controlling, and you have a system that you trust as well. But most people do not, go back and physically count how many bottles of beer did I place on the table today. When you're told it's time to purchase more stock, you automatically assume it's fine. And so what used to happen there is a lot of people used to also bring in their own alcohol through a different gate and sell stock that is actually not on the system. And then because you have one other person who has rights to the back end of the system, at like 4, 5 a.m. before the report is sent, they're busy voiding some of the things from the system. So there's a lot of that. And then he's too busy. He's making a lot of money anyway. So there's no keenness on, checking those little nitty-gritties. So I think those loopholes to date are still a lot in terms of stock control in bars. I think many bar owners will tell you that's their biggest headache is stock control, especially when the bar is big and you're holding stocks of millions of shillings. There's a lot that actually goes on behind the scenes. Yeah. So there's a lot of that.
So there's a lot of stuff going on, but he is making enough money, or Jays was making enough money for 700K to be 700K a night, because that is 2.8 million a month.
Yeah.
To be a
to be
negligible.
okay. Yeah.
Like it's
because
fine.
we're doing over 30 million turnover in a month, so they're still doing really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if so, even a 30 million, 2.4 million is what percent? It's like. Yeah. Hey, there's a math guy here. Let me tell you, that's 10%. Which is, I mean, the pilferage rate in a hospitality industry is about what, between, is it 5 and 15 or something like that? Anyway,
and it could go higher as well.
It could go higher.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you interact with a lot of the customers at any point?
Yeah. So I'm an introverted extrovert to some extent. An ambivert. Yeah. So when it comes to work, I'll be super social because my job requires me to be social. So in terms of getting customer feedback, understanding what customer struggles are, some of them you'd find it's something as little as I keep getting, like I've ordered for 5 beers, but because people assume I'm drunk, my bill has 12 beers. But I'll just pay because I don't want drama. So there's a lot of that. So unless you go and actually engage with the customers, you'll never understand what the struggles are. So I didn't interact with customers a lot, get customer feedback, try to handle it on the spot as much as possible, and just slowly eased and learned the industry as I moved along.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you, and I hope you'll be able to answer this question, how do you set up a bar to make as much as you possibly can from it? Like, how do you make it most profitable? What are the things you do?
The first thing is in your staff. Like I want to believe from the experience that your staff have a higher role to play than your stock. So you could have very little stock, but if you've calculated literally everything from your profit margins to your expenses, your overheads, like you understand literally each and every cost and how you work it out, and then you have a trustworthy team behind the bar and in your accounts department, then you'll make maximum out of your bar. But I literally urge every other place I've worked for, like as much as you're the owner up there and making millions every other month and not understanding what goes on half of the time behind the scenes, you need to from time to time understand it. Like it's super crucial. Like if everyone resigned today, would you still stay behind the counter and actually sell? Would you know who your suppliers are? Because I've encountered people in hospitality who don't even know who their suppliers are. We've probably changed suppliers 12 times and you have no idea. And I'm probably changing my suppliers based on who's giving me the best kickback, because suppliers also do that a lot because you want your products to be bought. So there's a lot of that you also, as the owner, need to understand, as opposed to entrusting one person to understand 100% of your business. Yeah.
Okay. From a customer perspective, do you think you got to a level where if I walked into a bar, so for example, if Collins and I walk into a bar, can you be like, that guy is going to spend more money than this guy?
Yes, to some extent.
What are the tales? What are the things that you're looking at?
Most times it's usually clients that you've seen before, so you already know their spending habits. But aside from that, it's half of the time, I don't know whether I'm wrong to say this, but any client that walks in and orders food first, like literally aside from their beer order, they've ordered food, that one will probably spend a bit more than I am just here for drinks and sharing one bottle of vodka with 6 of us. And
So if someone is ordering food, that's a tell sign that the person is probably going to spend a bit more money than then
And they're also not very keen on the column that shows the prices of the drinks. Yeah, if I take Absolute vodka, because that's my favorite drink, I'll drink Absolute anywhere, irrespective of how much it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that as well.
Okay. Do you then customize your, I guess, your team's habits or engagement with the customers based on how much you think someone's going to spend? Do you pay more attention to a high net worth table, for example, or a high spending table, or what's it like?
So the biggest struggle I've encountered in places like Jay's, which have expatriates and also have locals, is people tend to assume because that's an expatriate table, they're going to spend 100K and they'll tip better than Nyambura over here with her 15 white cups. So tried to discourage that as much as possible because I just judged you from your look. I do not know what you are actually going to spend or who you're going to hang out with. And at the end of the day, even that person who's just come and ordered a plate of fries and water could end up being your everyday guest. And this other group that spent 100,000 will probably never come back again. They just came because they saw it on social media. So it is important, and I've always advocated for equality. It doesn't matter how much you booked a table for. Everyone needs to get the same level of service as every other person.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember for the people who will begrudge me if I don't bring it up, if there were any racism like nuances at Jay's. Because I have to ask, right? I have to ask. The ones I'm remembering are more recent from a different establishment. But I mean, so forgive me, but were there any outright, racist behaviors either by staff or by the establishment? Did they, was there preferential treatment?
That normally, it rarely comes from an establishment, at least not where I've worked. It mostly comes from staff. And again, it's because you find that in very busy establishments, we have a lot of casual staff who are hired every other weekend. So for this casual waiter who, just for example's sake, you're paying 1,500 bob for a waitress for that night, and she only has a job today and tomorrow. Between Monday and Friday, she's not guaranteed to find something else to do. So she needs that heavy tip more than, because she doesn't have a salary at the end of the month. So I feel like that is where that used to come from more than the guys who are already permanently employed and have already started learning their customers. They probably know some of them by name. It's a habit that is very hard to completely get rid of, because the establishments to date I go to in Nairobi, and the white table will get served quicker than my table will, which is sad, but yeah. I think to some extent I understand why people do that, but
is it really true? Bottom line, at the end of the day, do expatriates or Caucasian individuals tip better?
No, not all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more myth than
fact.
It's
more, yeah.
Okay.
Because there are Kenyans who tip way better. I know Kenyans who tip really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a myth.
Okay. So how long do you end up being at Jay's? How long do you stay at Jay's?
4 or 5 years.
Does your salary move at all in those 4 or 5 years?
No.
It stays that 100K.
Yeah.
So that's where the naivety comes in, eh?
Yeah.
So then at that point, what are your when do you begin to, assuming you begin to get like a money policy for yourself, when does that sort of kick in?
I think after the first couple of months
at Jay's.
Yeah, at Jay's, I start thinking, wait, but someone joined after I did and has been able to, say, buy a car, because again, when you're employed, one of the highest things to buy is a car. And I'm not able to. And then I go back to Johnny and I'm like, we need to renegotiate my salary because... And I used to give a very simple explanation. I found you at a 32 million turnover for quite a couple of months. And I got you to a point where you were above 40 million. So naturally, I should be doing better. And he'd say, no, but I've already trained you. You know, that is like school. And so, yeah, that goes back to being naive. Like, I should have negotiated these things before. Yeah, and it made sense in my head. But
at the time.
Anyway, he took a chance on me. I could be earning 12,000 bob anyway. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a really interesting thing. I do whatever on that a bit. Because it almost feels like, I don't know if it's unfair to say, it almost feels like he's using the fact that he took a chance on you, and you know that he took a chance on you, as emotional, manipulation almost. It's a strong word. It's a very strong word. But, for you to always think that, he did take a chance on me. So,
unfortunately, it happens a lot, like in employment. Sometimes you find people who've been struggling for, say, 5 years, you haven't found a job. And the first person who gives you a job and knows you don't have experience in the industry takes advantage of that part. Like, I am training you on the job. You're not yet there. I will let you know when you're there. That happens a lot. I kind of had a second episode of relearning that you need to calculate your net worth before you sign any contract. Mm-hmm. So I got an accident in 2023 and it was a tragic one. So stopped working for almost a year and a half because I literally couldn't walk. And when I started like walking again, you've already drained so much when it comes to hospital bills and all those finances and not having to work and my partner having to stay home to take care of both me and my daughter who was 1 year at the time. So again, a lot of regrouping in terms of how my relationship with money came back in 2023 as well. But got back into the job industry again. So the easiest to get back to is hospitality. Mm-hmm. But because I got back into the industry while walking on two crutches at the time, and a humongous boat that you'd see from a mile away, again, people still felt like I'm doing you a favor by hiring you because you can't be the face of the restaurant like this. So again, I'll pay you this and you're supposed to be happy with it based on, that story. So that's what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of that happens. And I think, again, back to financial education and knowing what's out there, knowing what your options are. If I'm a marketer, what's the salary scale for marketers? So that I'm not getting paid 10K and maybe guys are earning $1 million bob and I don't know. And I'm just naive. I don't know anything about it. I don't know that there's opportunity for career growth. Like, at what point do I need to go back to my boss and say, we need to reevaluate this? At what point do you ask for a wider scope? Do you apply to get the next position, or are you just stuck at the same point for the longest time? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I want all the things you've talked about right now. I want to get in detail on that, but before I go there, I just want to bring you back to this Jay's conversation and these 4 or 5 years that you were there, where your salary remained constant. If you were to relive that moment, right? At what point are you, with all the information you have now, at what point are you renegotiating your salary, and what are you saying, with the knowledge you have now, what are you saying to the employer to understand the value that then you have brought to the organization and what your salary should then be? What's the commensurate rate of what you ought to be paid based on what you've delivered?
I'd say in a year was enough, because the first 6 months you're also learning the ropes of how, because every establishment, every industry works differently. So within 6 months, you've already adjusted and things are now working according to the way they're supposed to. So within a year, I'm supposed to be able to, come back and say, hey, Johnny, I think we need to discuss. I've been here for this long. This is my value, because you need to be able to even draw that in a graph if you have to. Mm-hmm. Like, I got in at this point, there was this amount of turnover when it comes to staff, because again, hospitality struggles with high staff turnover, which again sometimes is as a result of mismanagement. Mm-hmm. So this is the turnover. We've reduced it to this rate. In terms of stock control, you can get it 100%, but we've reduced it to this rate. Our expenditure as well, and for that, I feel like I should be earning just slightly more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting, and I think there's really key metrics that you've chosen there to highlight. So how do you end up leaving Jay's? What gets you out of Jay's?
So Jay's decided, it was not exactly expanding, but they decided to open a new outlet in Karen.
Yes.
And brought in another investor. And the conversation that I choose not to talk about on air, but just a couple of things didn't go the way they were supposed to. And I think by then I'd also started learning my value as well as learning my growth. And I knew there were better opportunities. I got better opportunities once I left. So sometimes you have done so much. Like, there's nothing more you can do that will make it any different. Okay. And you've also, when you're in an establishment for a bit too long, sometimes you've hit your cup of growth. Like, there's no other position you'll get above the one that you already have. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so beyond you, it was owner. I mean, above
Yeah,
it was
and I
owner.
will not
And
be
you're
the
not
one
going
of
to be
these.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever have a conversation around stock options or ownership in one way or another?
No, because again, naivety. I did not think that. Now I'm learning that people actually get certain percentage of shares in those private owned businesses.
Yeah.
But at the time, I did not know that that was an option. To me, the option was double my salary or
And you move.
get me a car. Like, very,
Yeah.
material things.
I mean, based off of some of the metrics you've talked about, do you think, like, if at the beginning, as the time is giving you this job, like, if you tell him, okay, if I can get your turnover to above 40 million, if I can reduce your whatever by X percent and X percent, X percent, would you be willing to give me 3% in shares or whatever the case? Do you think he would have been agreeable to it?
I think he would have.
Because he would have thought you wouldn't have been able to do it, or
No, he would have because because you're very new in the industry and you probably never hit that that level anyway. And two, maybe because he believed a lot in loyalty, like he valued loyalty. So that is also a kind of quote unquote sign of loyalty. Like I want to be in this business that much. I'm also investing. But the biggest thing, aside from my salary not changing for the longest time, I think the one thing I got out of there that is invaluable was networks. Grew a lot of networks just working at Jay's. Like to date, there are people I'll call and I'm like, I think I met you when I was at Jay's and there's this favor I need. And just the fact that you've mentioned Jay's rings a bell. Maybe they don't even remember you from there, but got to grow networks and contacts from there and also grew a lot career-wise from there. It was, let's say I was paying for school fees with the extra salary. He'd have paid me.
That sounds almost like consolation. But I hear you. I've been in the same boat. I've been in the same boat. Anyway, so when you leave Jay's, is it on a drop of a hat where you're like, I'm done? When the new person comes and you're like, we're not agreeing, forget this guy, I'm done, I'm out? Or do you have a plan? Is there?
I kept saying I'll leave. So towards the end of my leaving, I'd started checking out options like career-wise, where would I want to go to? And funny thing is, I really wanted to get out of hospitality in terms of get out of the nightlife because it was also a lot. Like you're really working long hours. You're always fatigued, literally constantly fatigued. On your off day, you have reports to send. If there's an emergency, you have to show up back to work. So I wanted to get kind of out of that and maybe get to hospitality from a corporate point as opposed to from the bar and nightclub industry. But as luck would have it, 12 years later, I've just circled around hospitality entirely. It's only end of last year that as I was joining 254, I moved on to the corporate bit instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and actually, maybe even before you tell me exactly where you went after 254, I want to ask you a bit about remuneration in the hospitality industry and the places that you've been working at. I mean, you're talking about paying a day waitress, so to speak, 1,500 shillings a day. You're talking about earning 100,000 shillings a month for a business that's losing 700,000 shillings a night, right? In your history, your perspective, I mean, we've also had Samir here, who's a mixologist who, I mean, talk to us a little bit about what people are paid in that industry. I mean, do you think it's a fair commensurate rate for, businesses that are making millions and,
to be honest, no, because I think again, it's different. So that establishments that actually pay really, really well. So I've worked for clubs that I won't mention where I've earned as much as 300K. Doing the exact same roles or even less than I used to do at Jay's. I've also been back to same spaces where I'm doing much more and earning 70K. So there's not really a standard. It's owner by owner. And you'll find most of them are actually clocking the same kind of turnover. So there's no really like cap, like this is what I must earn. It depends on the owner of the place. And I think there should be a standardization of some sort because I believe people who choose to work in hospitality give much more than just that service. It's you need them for your clients to keep coming
Yeah.
back. Yeah, like if I'm rude to clients or I'm not giving good service or the food is not good, the chef didn't do a good job, then you lose your clients. So I think they should be valued just a bit more than I think they are.
Yeah.
And I know the bigger hotels, which kind of now serve like the corporate of hospitality, those ones do a good job at that.
Okay.
But the non-formal, for lack of a better word, sector,
Yeah.
there's no really scale. Yeah,
Okay.
you could be earning 500,000 and then next job you're earning 70K.
And it's the same duties.
And it's the same duties.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask a bit of an off the cuff question. What's and this I'm asking as a consumer of food at restaurants or clubs and pubs, what's the strangest thing you've caught an employee doing to someone's food or drink without telling us the establishment?
I was very new to this establishment that
Yeah.
we wouldn't mention because it still exists. And there was food at the hot pass. You know, after the chef makes the food, it's like
Right.
over there on display.
Right.
And there are two waiters who just casually kept picking on the pieces of meat and eating them, like just poking off and then arranging them nicely. And it looked like something they do all the time because they were so confident doing it. I was standing right behind them, it wasn't a thing,
Right.
and carried the food to the table and served it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you've not caught someone like spitting in someone's food or
No, I've never.
like
That happens.
No, I mean, I'm just wondering, you watch series and stuff and people talk about all sorts of things, but okay. That is it is bizarre.
Yeah.
All right. So from before you tell us about what you do from Jay's, what's your personal finance like at that point? Do you start saving? Do you start investing? Or are you still living? We live for 2 weeks and then beg for 2 weeks and then wait for the salary.
No, sadly, we don't start saving because remember, I've come from like 12K ish to
100K.
back up again. I'm like, this is what I was meant to be. So, and then now you have friends who are probably earning more than you do. So you're also spending like they do. Yeah. So you're overspending your salary at tapas every other weekend, paying bills of 15,000. And yeah, it was still a crazy journey that I didn't learn. Like I used to, to date, I'm still trying to unlearn that. So I don't know that I do not have enough money in the bank because I've been swiping everywhere and paying by M-Pesa. So I never used to check my bank balance.
You just don't check.
No, I used to tell my brother that I'll just keep swiping. If it says decline, then I know I don't have money. Then I'll check my balance at that point, which is sad because I did it for a very long time. And I just imagine, like I'll sit on my bed and say, I think I spent like 6K yesterday and then today, instead of just checking the bank balance. And also a fear of saving because then I'll save a lot. So how exactly am I going to live? So just the lack of education again on finances was bringing that about. And you quickly forget because you've been paid again on time. So yeah, cycle starts all over again. Yeah.
When do you begin to get a handle on managing your money better? What happens in your life that you begin to manage your money better?
The accident.
Okay.
Because there was no insurance. So again, I always believed you don't need health insurance because you're going to keep paying for it. And then you're not getting sick. Like you're just getting a Homa, which you can spend 1,000 bob on medication and you'll be fine. And there's nothing big, quote unquote, that you're going to get that will cost you more than 10,000 bob. I mean, you can even afford to pay for maternity without insurance. So I was, for lack of knowledge, never for the idea of insurance unless my employer is paying for it. So the job that I just relocated to Nanyuki, got a very nice job, a very big company, and I was their head of marketing in Mount Kenya region.
You don't want to tell us the...
No.
Okay. But for those who want to Google, they can Google and see what they'll find.
It's not even on my LinkedIn.
Right.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So I just literally worked for them for 2 weeks or slightly less and got the accident. So got the accident, got into a coma, and it was a whole other process from there. So I remember when my brother was calling them because they were meant to give me insurance.
Oh, it was part of the package, the employment package.
Yeah,
and
but
this
I
is
hadn't.
This is right after Jay's.
No. After Jay's, I worked for so many other clubs.
Okay.
went into self-employment actually at some point.
And so
made
and
millions,
in that journey where you made millions in self-employment.
and never saved them. But
How are we not talking about that? Okay, let's talk about the accident and then let's talk about the self-employment and the millions.
So got the accident, and then there was a part for filling in details, whether it's insurance or NHIF at the time.
Right.
So he called the employer, they said the employer, and she said, no, we were not even serious. We weren't sure whether she was going to, make it through probation. So as it is, she's not our employee. And that was a shocker for them. I don't know. I'm in a coma, so I'm not aware.
Right?
It's on them.
Yeah. If you have no sort of issue talking about it, what happened? What happened with the accident? What happened?
So I just landed. I used to do a lot of consultancy gigs on the side. And so aside from the main job, there were still people I'd consult for. And now we've relocated to Nanyuki. In the
hospitality industry.
Yeah. So now we've relocated to Nanyuki. Someone wanted to do an event, so I had to make a trip to Nairobi by road, by matatu, not by road, by matatu to come and do the meeting. To come and do the meeting and then go back. So on the way back, the matatu got into an accident near Sagana and it killed 11 people. We only survived 2 of us. Oh, no. But it was like life literally stopped on the 25th of April of 2023, like just stopped.
Yeah.
And it was just a few days after my daughter turned 1. So everything was just... to those who were still seeing, because I was in a coma and I did not know anything, I think that hit my entire family heavy, especially, again, because medical bills, and immediately you get to hospital with everything broken, they want money first before they can start treating you. So it was a long journey. It was a very long journey.
From my perspective, I'm curious. Do you remember getting into the accident? The reason why I'm asking is when I was 18 years old, I rolled a car, and I remember. I think I vividly remember enough up until the car started, like going. Then it was just black, and and then the next thing, I was upside down on the other side of Langata Road, and I had to sort of come out through the driver window. So I'm just curious, like, what's your memory of it, or is it all just black?
So the car crash, it was raining, and the driver had kept saying he's feeling sleepy, but nobody really took. You know how long distance drivers will do too many trips when it's busy season?
Yeah.
So I think schools were going back or something because it was pretty busy that weekend. And so I fell asleep as well. I was like, let me also just take a nap. So I don't see the road because it's raining and it's dark and I'm alone in terms of I'm not with someone I know. And the car lost control because he fell asleep. And a lorry also lost control and rammed into the matatu. The only thing I remember is the impact of the lorry, because I was seated behind the driver. So the impact of the lorry on my side, and then people screaming. And then the next thing, blackout. The next thing I remember is us being like carried into the back of a pickup. And someone saying, "Uyu ako hai, chukua uyu." So I was lifted and put into the back of a pickup. I gave a stranger my entire bag. It had my laptop, my phones, and gave him my dad's number, somehow I could remember, and my husband's number, and my brother's number, like the 3 numbers I could remember top of my mind. And I told him to make sure and he actually gave it to them the next day, which was weird. But that's all I remember. From then it was hospital, and so in the emergency room of it was Jamii Hospital. It's just a little hospital in Karatina. The curtains are being drawn because the next person has also died. So you draw the curtain, so... From there, nothing until the day I woke up.
When you're being put onto this pickup, are you in pain?
No.
You're like, as far as you're concerned,
no.
When you're giving the numbers, there's no pain.
There's no pain. Okay. But I can't feel my hand and my leg, but there's no pain.
Okay.
Yeah.
You okay? That's scary.
Yeah.
So as you said, life stopped 25th of
April, 2023. Yeah.
When do you wake up? When do you get to gain consciousness?
About a month and a half in.
A month, 6 weeks.
Yeah. And that was actually the day the doctors had called for a family meeting to let them know. From the scans, we think she has some brain scars. She has some scratches on her brain, so we're not sure if she'll ever wake up. And it's just sad. And that's the same day I decide to wake up.
Forget
So
these guys.
we don't lose like that.
Do you? I mean, and this now again, I'm asking for. Forgive my. I don't know what you'd call it.
Yeah.
Like in those 6 weeks, like nothing.
I think the last day. I'm not sure that was the last day.
Yeah.
But it should have been, because I remember seeing my grandmom, like right in front of me. She passed away a couple of years back, and an aunt would passed away like a year or two before that, and my granddad was still alive
Before the accident.
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
In
right.
that cloud, yeah. And my grandmom kept saying, "Don't follow your auntie, follow your grandfather. Like, don't even look at your auntie." So I look at my grandfather. The next time I open my eyes, I see my dad standing in front of me. So
that's how you woke up.
Yeah, that's how I woke up.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But like absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
For 6 weeks. It's incredible. Anyway, that's like my other part of my non-financially incorrect sort of going. Okay.
Yeah.
So you defy the odds, defy what the doctors say on that day. You wake up.
Yeah.
What's that hospital bill like? And what's life thereafter like? Moving from there.
The bill entirely came to about 3.8 million. Remember, no insurance. So that meant my husband's family, my family, all extended tapping in to make sure we pay the bills. God bless them. We never got to do a harambe at any point. Like, they were able to clear the bills. But so I went home for a break because I needed to graft my foot. So I went home for some time. I don't remember what that process is called. Then went back to the hospital for grafting. And my dad collapsed the day I was checking out of the hospital. He apparently had gotten a major stroke, went into a coma, got some brain surgery done, passed away within 2 weeks. So again, now there was his bill on top. It was in the same hospital, Outspan. So now there was his 3 million bill on top of my bill that we'd not yet finished clearing. And again, we enjoy life, so no insurance for him either. So yeah. So that was a tough season for the entire family.
Yeah.
Like, the one my mom had kept on saying rainy day. I guess that was a rainy month. Yeah.
Okay, that's difficult. I mean, I think I've seen Boniface Mwangi say this a couple of times, that every middle class family in Kenya is one medical emergency away from
poverty.
Or poverty.
Yeah, like entirely, because that also meant that you're not working at all. Because remember, I've been disowned by my new job, so no job.
Yeah,
and again, the nanny system in Kenya is also a tricky one. So once I went home, and I was literally immobile for the rest of the year. Like, I used to be turned like like an old kamama, changed diapers and all that stuff. So my husband decided to quit his job and just take care of me. And then the nanny takes care of the baby, because you can't entrust her with that much work. And he just wanted to be like fully present. So both sides of the family were supportive in terms of paying rent, paying bills, and the hospital journey, which to date I'm still on physiotherapy. So an extended financial journey. So yeah, I think more people should be a bit more aware of how important certain things are, because you wake up and not know what will happen the next minute.
Yeah.
And I don't think even the rich people have that many millions just stashed waiting for an accident to happen so that they can pay for hospital bills. Yeah. So that was a major turning point in terms of finances, and just relooking at how we generally, even as a new family, were living our life.
Yeah.
That's me and my husband and the baby. Like, if something happened to either of us, what does that mean for our daughter?
Yeah.
Like, will she still go to school, or will she be my brother's or his sister's burden?
Yeah.
So that was a major turning point for us.
Again, I'm asking out, with the utmost respect. What's that conversation like when your husband is deciding to quit his job? What's that conversation like with you? What's that conversation like with the family, who now I guess you're going to rely on to be able to pay your bills?
Yeah.
And how long does it last?
So with me, it was, so we'd had two helps actually at the time. So one was looking after our daughter, and the other one was with me. But that whole aspect of, like I said, I'm not mobile. So it means diaper changes. It means washing me literally every other day. And then you're looking at how much it would cost to have a live-in nurse. And at the time, he also hadn't stabilized. When we moved to Nanyuki, he was settling into a new job. So unlike me, would already gotten a job and signed a contract. He was still adjusting to that. So it hadn't become stable as yet. So we're looking at how much it's going to cost for physio and for literally every other thing that we need to do versus him just staying home and taking care of all of us. And he chose on his own entirely. It wasn't, I'd like you to stay home and look after me and change my diapers. No, he said he just wants to be there. He wouldn't imagine being at work and either of us is getting harassed because someone thinks you're too much of a burden. So he spoke to his parents about it and they were okay with supporting. My family as well was okay with supporting and supported us literally until January 14th of last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's like real family. That's like, when real family kicks in.
Yeah.
This I'm going to ask from a marital perspective. I mean, when you say the vows and, for sickness and health, I said mine not too long ago.
Yeah.
What is it like being on the sickness end of the vow?
Being the one who's unwell.
Being the one who's, I guess you want unwell, but being the one who's being taken care of now.
Helpless.
Yeah.
It felt very helpless. I'm not used to not being able to do something for myself. I've always been a go-getter type of person and not relying on people as well. I, for the longest time, never knew how to ask for help. Like I'll struggle by myself and get things done. So from that to if I need a toothpick or something, I have to literally ask for help. And being fed as well, that felt really, I felt like I was pulling his life backwards. Like I'd literally also just stopped his life. So many days I'd wake up and look at him and I'm like, are you sure this is, because we're not sure I'll walk.
And I mean,
so,
how many years in were you into the marriage at that point?
1.5, because our daughter was 1, so it's literally just slightly more, than our daughter.
I mean, and this may sound like a stupid question, but I mean, so you say the vows a year and a half later or a year and a half before. How ready are you? How ready do you think you are for the practicality of those vows to kick in? And by that I mean, if you're talking about being helpless, talking about someone changing your diapers, you're talking about someone feeding you. I mean, that's like vulnerability at, its utmost. So a year and a half ago, you said the vows being very, giddy and happy and everything, and now, you're literally living them out. Do you think you were ready to?
No, I wasn't ready to. I felt guilty, like really, really guilty, literally every other day. And sometimes I'd look at him looking sad, but he's looking sad because he's thinking about where we are at. And I'd feel as though I might just let him go, just let him go live his life.
Yeah.
Like I had those thoughts. I told him so many times, like, imagine you can just move back to Nairobi and start your life over. We'll be fine. I won't hold it against you. Go start over, get a job, marry if you have to, but don't, because at the time we were not sure that I'd ever even stand, let alone walk. I kept telling him, I hope I'm not forcing you into this situation. And he kept reminding me, I think you'd do the same thing for me. So, yeah.
I mean, that's crazy because, I mean, of course you were across from him when he was saying the vows, but even with that, you're still telling him, like, it's fine. Like, you can go.
Just...
It's not easy to live out those vows, basically.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Okay. Collins looks so... like, I don't even know what the word is. He's just like, what is happening? Okay. All right. So, I mean, so they support you for quite some time. And the financial... So now even financially, right? So even though you're getting supported, does it ever get to a point where you even feel guilty for the financial support that you're receiving, where you might want something and you're like, we shouldn't even ask because these guys have done 1,000,001 things for us, so just...
Actually got to a point we stopped. We'd lie about what we need because we don't want to sound like we're burdening them too much because we're paying rent, a lot of rent at the time. And then the expenses, adult diapers are expensive, my goodness.
How much are they?
A pack of 10 goes for almost 1,500 and they're just 10 pieces. And you're using them every day. Yeah. So it was
how much
that...
are regular diapers? I don't know.
Like baby diapers, a packet of 36 will go for like 1,000 bobo.
Oh, wow.
Depending
so
on the
like
brand. So it's
times,
it's not the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was insane. Like little things like that we didn't know the cost of. Medication as well, because again, on daily medications, antibiotics that are equally expensive. It was a lot. So it got to a point where we never used to say when we need something. And I think our mothers figured that out. So they'd send money without asking, like just you. And I'm like, I don't need money. No, where eka tu. And my mom likes repeating, rainy day, utatumia yo pesa nimekutumia. Yeah, so they did a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
For yourself, up until the day you stand up and walk, you seem to be defying all these doctors at different stages. Up until you quote unquote get your life back or get elements of your life back, what are the thoughts that you're having about your life, especially financially, from a financial perspective? What are the things you're thinking about?
I had a lot of regrets coming from earning a lot. Like I mentioned, I'd also, so before getting into that job that got the accident, before that, so when I got pregnant, I stopped employment and decided to go into events, basically doing just business. So did a lot of events and activations.
So like an events company, essentially.
Yeah. So an events agency and a lot of consulting for clubs and restaurants, specifically in Mount Kenya region, because that region needs a lot more of that and it's not as saturated with agencies as Nairobi is. So we're doing pretty well.
Is there a lot of opportunity? Are there many events happening? Are there many things?
There are not many events, but we created quite a number of them. Yeah.
And there was enough.
The need and the demand was there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The demand was there. The need was there. EABL was one of my biggest clients, which was amazing, meaning we made a lot of money. But again, back to the lack of financial direction, meaning not saving as we should have saved at the time. And also, it came at a time where you're making this much money, but you're also starting a family and you've just gotten a baby. So the expenses are equally high. So more is being tapped into that. And you don't think a day will reach when it suddenly all stops. Yeah.
Okay. So in this event agency sort of era, what are the monies? So it's all about making millions. Where are you making the money from? Like typically from events, how much typically would you be making from event? How much money is coming to you on average on a monthly basis at that time?
On a monthly basis, we'd do between $500,000 and $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell me about the thinking for you to consciously stop employment to get into business when you were pregnant, as opposed to saying, under employment, I know I'll have the 3-month maternity leave where I'll be paid without having to, well, not without having to not work. I don't want to sound, crass.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I always wanted to be the mother who stayed home and was flexible enough to literally raise the child. So for the entire first year, just before we moved to Nanyuki, I never had a stay in nanny. Just had someone who'd come do laundry once a week and go. And I'd do literally everything else. And I was enjoying that housekeeping because I'd always wanted to be that person. Because growing up, my mom, so we lived in Nyeri and my mom was working for college. So there were the staff quarters. That's where we lived for the longest time before moving. So she used to literally walk 5 minutes from the office back to the house. So she had enough time to, if it was my brother who was really small, come home, breastfeed, go back, or carry him to work, and then have enough time to make dinner for everyone, clean, cook. I wanted to be that kind of woman. Like you try to emulate what you watched growing up. So I wanted to be the same thing. And I knew, having had a job in Nairobi, and especially the only kind of jobs I knew in Nairobi were hospitality, specifically the nightlife. I did not want to raise a child in that kind of space. So I needed to be self-employed and governing my own timelines in order for me to raise her, to be there 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, so it wasn't necessarily financially driven per se. It was more driven by the kind of mom you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd asked you about what your thoughts are around money when you were, when you're waking up from this coma, you're going through this 1.5 years of treatment. What are your thoughts around your ability to make money and what you're going to do? Because you had come from a place of making a lot of money. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. I think the aim was to just start where you are and grow. And in terms of saving, be a bit more keen on that. And saving doesn't necessarily mean, I understood saving doesn't mean just having 100,000 in the bank and that's a saving. Having your money work for you as well. So investments that will continually bring you money every other time, every other month, that is an additional income to what you already have. That for me is a win. Of course, having insurance now so that hospital does not necessarily have to be an expense again, unless it is topping up for something really big. Yeah, so a lot of saving and a lot of investing and a lot of also living within your means kind of lifestyle. And within your means doesn't mean spending 100,000. It just means your expenses are based on how much you're earning every other month. Yeah.
Okay. And so tell me about the day whether it's you begin to realize that you will walk again, or sort of how that happens. Yeah.
So we decided to move back to Nairobi January of last year. So no, December, I applied for a job. April, so towards December of the same year I got the accident. Our parents insist that we need to pack up and move back to Nairobi because, like my father-in-law says a lot, Nairobi has more opportunities. Nanyuki is a little dead town. You need to, unless you're already rich in the past, you need to pack up and move back. You guys are still young. You can grow. And then I thought he didn't know what he was saying because, I mean, I know people who are rich in Nanyuki. What do you mean I can't be rich in Nanyuki? But now that I think about it, yes, there are much more opportunities on this other side in terms of career as well. So we decided we're going to move back. So again, I don't like relying on people too much. So I decided to start looking for a job because I'd learned how to stand on two crutches and skip with one foot. So I'd kind of like hop. Yeah. So decided I'm going to apply for jobs. So I applied for a job to an agency I will not name, and passed the virtual interview. Like literally everything virtual. I did very well. But remember, on the video, they could only see from waist up. And I didn't disclose that I had a problem with my leg. At the time, it was only my leg that had an issue. So the owner insisted, come to Nairobi, so let's sign the papers so you can start off in January when the rest are joining. I still remember driving into their parking lot, and then we made the phone call that we're here, which side do we park? And I was told. And we went and parked right in front of the office. And she was also leaving to come to that boardroom-ish space. And she saw my husband and his friend Shuka with the crutches to come to the back. And she literally stopped to look at us. And the door was opened and I was given both crutches. And you could see the confusion on her face. And through that formal, because it was like an interview as well, the last stage, she wasn't focused on what I had to say or what my mind, because the job did not involve moving around. It was literally sit down at my desk and get my work done. She was very confused. And at some point she stopped and asked, what happened to your leg? I was like, I got an accident, explained it. And she was like, yeah, my husband was also in a similar accident, but now he's getting back to working. And I was like, so she understands. Turns out, no, she did not understand. And I go back home and I call and I'm told, we are sorry. She didn't even pick up the call. So someone else picked the call and they were like, no, because you can't walk properly.
They told you because you can't walk properly.
Yeah, because you cannot walk properly, you can't have the job. But let us know how you're faring with your health. I was like, wow. So it was back to square zero of let's try and look for something. So unfortunately, people also judge the outward more. Like to date, since I still have a limp, every time I walk towards someone, they're like, and I'm like, just focus on the top half and listen to what I'm telling you. Leave my makanga sandals, as my brother calls them, leave them alone. Focus on the top. And it has happened in so many scenarios. Like even now, after not having the crutches at all, there's still people who will judge from that point.
Because
like
you're limping.
It's as though you're less able to do certain things just because I'm not walking as straight as everyone else is, which is pretty sad because I cannot even begin to imagine those who are still subjected to a wheelchair permanently go through, as opposed to me who is now just limping. Yeah, like it's sad, but and you still have to make a living.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I honestly don't even know what to say. So what then? How do you rebuild? How have you rebuilt yourself financially to get to the point where I guess now you're working for 254?
I eventually got a job in February last year. So made a phone call to, again, networks that I'd known through J's. Yeah, so I was told one of them had just opened a restaurant. And I can mention the Bull in Karen. Yeah. So I called Andrew. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a job. You know the Bull in Karen?
Is this the one, the pork?
No. The one under Karen Meat Factory. They do very good steak and So I'd known him since my J's days and I'd never spoken to him since, but I still had his phone number.
Yeah.
So I called and he remembered me from J's as well. And I told him, by then I'm looking for a job, and we went through a conversation. He'd also been struggling with a lot of pilferage at the bar. And he told me, Sawa, go meet my wife since I'm out of town and have a conversation with her. So I went and met her, lovely lady, had a conversation. She actually was the first not to look at the crutches. Like she genuinely focused on just the conversation and was like, when can you start? Then I think later told Andrew, but then she came with crutches. So Andrew called me and asked me, are you okay? Will you be able to commute from home to work? And he gave a car, gave a driver and fuel for me to be going from work to.
Wow, okay.
So it was pretty supportive. And I think in that career journey since then, I've gotten very supportive people, along the way, who don't judge based on how you are. Are focused on what you have to offer and what you have to deliver.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's first of all, I'm fantastic. There's a good, it's like a happy ending to the story for starters. And so what's been, because I would assume essentially as a family and as an individual, you are rebuilding from scratch financially from that point. What's that been like now? What are your must-haves when you're budgeting for your house or budgeting for the year? Yeah. What are your
budgeting
must-haves?
for the year? Insurance is a must-have.
Yeah.
Because you also with a baby who's in preschool now, the homers are endless. Yeah. So insurance is a must-have. Also, just having a fund that you can access aside from your savings and how you're investing your money, just that fund that is above your expenses that you can always go back to should the month be a bit tougher than it's supposed to be. And having priorities. Like we now literally sit down, something we never used to do before. We'll sit before we get paid and write down a list of even things you're sure of, like rent, you know how much you pay every month, but it's still on that list. Like literally count to the end. If it's random things you buy every week, like say you're adding milk in the house every other week and veggies, like we also budget for that, just so that we are sure every other month we don't have to go back to being helped. Like I think we cringe a lot at help now that we had to go through it so much. So I wouldn't imagine calling my mom and telling, "Hi, I need like 10K." No.
Yeah.
They did a lot of that time. Yeah. So just being wise about expenses as well. Yeah.
Okay. So, as we are winding up this, before we started, I asked you your craziest money stories. You gave me one, which I knew, which we've talked about here already, which was how you got the J's job. Have you talked about the second one?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we've covered them both. For context, I had told her because I told her I didn't want to know what it was. I wanted to cover it in the interview, and I told her if she doesn't say it, then we'll say it on the. She'll say it separately after we're done. But I mean, I think at coming to the end of this, you had no reason to have any concern whatsoever. I think you've given us a story we have not heard before. Thank you so much for that perspective from so many perspectives, from the hospitality industry, from having an accident, from lack of insurance to family support to marriage. I think there's a lot of stuff for people to pick and learn from here for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
So you should not doubt yourself at all sitting in that seat. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. And for the rest of you guys, we will see you guys next week, next Friday, for the next episode of Financially Incorrect. And remember, for those in Uganda, Cavendish University, 25th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. The event is open for everybody. We're having a Financially Incorrect financial literacy event. And of course, proudly sponsored by FX Pesa. We will see you guys there.